I was 14, in my last year of middle school, and a typical 8th grader with a healthy dose of teenage arrogance. I needed to go to the bathroom during math class, a simple and routine request. I took the designated wooden hall pass and sauntered out into the hallway, feeling a moment of freedom. As I approached the main floor bathroom, I saw a sign on the door, out of order, use upstairs or downstairs bathroom. It was annoying, but no big deal. Just then, a man I didn't recognize approached me. He had a pleasant, easy smile and asked me where the nearest bathroom was. I told him he could go either upstairs or downstairs. He thanked me and headed for the stairs, and I, wanting to avoid any more conversation with a stranger, went down to the lower level. I wondered who he could be. He was definitely not a teacher or a staff member. Maybe a parent. I shook it off. The lower level was a small, isolated area with only a few classrooms and the locker rooms for sports teams. I pushed the heavy door to the bathroom open. As usual, it was dark inside, as this was the least used bathroom in the school. I found an empty stall, went inside, and shut the door with a loud click. Just as I was getting settled, the emergency fire alarm went off outside the bathroom door. A blaring, piercing shriek filled the air, and a bright white strobe light began to flash in the bathroom. My heart sank. It was the first fire drill of the year. I didn't know what the protocol was, and I felt sick with anxiety. Was a teacher coming to check the room? Would I get in trouble for not being with my class? I decided it was too late to go outside, so I just stayed put. The alarm was loud, but I tried to ignore it. Suddenly, the alarm got even louder. The door to the bathroom had opened. I could hear someone walking with slow, deliberate footsteps, and my blood ran cold. I saw a pair of shoes come into view under my stall door, stopping directly in front of me. I froze. I was sure it was a teacher who had come to check the room for stragglers. The person didn't say a word. I didn't know what to do. Should I say something? Confess my mistake and get it over with. I looked at the shoes, and I noticed they weren't just standing there. They were shifting slightly, as if the person was trying to get a better view. I saw it then, through the dreaded 1-inch gap in the stall door. A face was pressed up against it. An eye, wide and unblinking, was staring directly through the crack, right at me. A low chuckle came from the other side. My breath hitched in my throat, and a wave of pure, unadulterated fear washed over me. I wanted to scream, but no sound would come out. Then, the person got down on their knees and lowered their head until it was under the stall door. My mind reeled. It was that man from the hallway. When his eyes met mine, a sick smile spread across his face. The next thing I knew, he was crawling under the stall door. He grabbed me, one hand over my mouth, the other around my arm. "Don't struggle," he whispered. "Just relax." My life felt like it was flashing before my eyes. I was 14, an age where you still feel invincible. But in that moment, I knew I wasn't. Just as I thought it was over, the door to the bathroom opened again, and the fire alarm got louder. A familiar voice boomed through the room. It was the principal. "Is anybody in here?" he called. I knew this was my only chance. I bit down on the man's hand and screamed, a muffled, desperate cry that still managed to be heard. The principal rushed to the stall, his voice frantic. "Open the door! Open the door!" The man let go of me, threw the stall door open, and sprinted past the old principal, who was too slow to catch him. As far as I know, the man got away. The school didn't have cameras at that time. My principal, bless his heart, hugged me and walked me to his office to call my parents. All my friends saw me, shaken and humiliated, walking with my parents to their car. The principal, I later found out, had seen the man pull the fire alarm and run downstairs. He went down to check the bathroom first. He passed away 5 years ago, but to this day, he is my hero. Back in high school, fire drills were an escape. They were a chance to hang out with friends and get a break from class. One particular dark, cloudy day during third period, my friends and I heard a rumor that a fire drill was happening. We were in the same class and had no work to do in our later periods, so we saw an opportunity. Our plan was to sneak down to a secluded spot behind the school and smoke. When the ear-piercing alarm finally went off, we were ready. We were the first ones out of the classroom, and while everyone else was heading toward the front entrance, we were a mob of teenagers heading toward the back. We made it to the edge of the school, near the basketball and tennis courts, and found a narrow opening between the courts and a line of bushes that led to a place locals called the sump. It was a giant hole in the ground surrounded by bushes and trees right on the edge of the woods, a spot where kids came at night to drink, smoke, and have bonfires. It was an eerie day. The sky was a dark, brooding gray, giving the afternoon an ominous, almost nighttime feel. A cold breeze whispered through the trees, hinting at a storm approaching, which, for some reason, just added to our thrill. We waited until the sounds of the fire drill had faded and assumed everyone was back inside. My friend started rummaging through his backpack for his pipe and grinder. That's when I saw it. In the distance, at the edge of the woods, something was watching us. It looked like a face, but it was partially obscured by a couple of shrubs. I quickly looked away to get my friend's attention, but when I looked back, it was gone. They thought I was paranoid, but I was 70% sure I had seen a person. The more I smoked, the more paranoid I got. My mind raced, consumed with that face in the woods. Did someone see us? Would we get in trouble? My friends, oblivious to my terror, wanted to walk through the woods to an old, abandoned shack that the school used to use for something. It was about a 1-minute walk into the woods. I felt a few tiny raindrops and tried to convince them we should turn back because of the storm. They ignored me. As we walked, I swore I could hear footsteps that weren't ours. The sound seemed to be all around me. Then, from behind us, I heard a loud snap. I stopped and turned around. "What the f was that?" I yelled. My friends stopped too, but they hadn't heard anything. I scanned the darkness, but there was no one there. They all laughed at me, convinced I was losing my mind. We finally reached the shack. It was bigger and creepier than I remembered. The front door was ajar and the path to it was overgrown with grass. My friend pushed the door open, revealing a dark, musty interior. The air was thick with a strange, unpleasant odor. We heard it then, a squishy plopping sound, followed by the heavy thud of a foot on the wood floor. We all froze. In the corner of the room, barely visible in the dim light, was the silhouette of a tall person. We didn't scream. We just quietly walked back out the way we came and walked quickly back toward the school. We all looked back at the window nearest to the person just as a flash of lightning lit up the sky. What we saw was horrifying. A man with a seriously deformed face was pressed against the window. He was so close that his face was practically smashed against the glass. One of his eyes seemed to be missing, and half of his face was drooping down. It was inhuman. I took off running, my friends right behind me. We reached the sump in less than a minute, just as the rain started to pour. We stood there drenched, trying to figure out what to do. Then, my friend Jack pointed back up the hill. Standing behind a shrub, just like I had seen before, was another face. This one was much closer, but still too far away to make out the features. All I knew was it wasn't the same person from the shack. We ran back to the school, hid by the back entrance, and made a silent pact we would never talk about this again, we would never go back to that shack, and we would just go home and pretend this night never happened. Our school had a secret. A door near the back of the building led down to a half stairway and into a weird, dark hallway. A lot of students knew about it, but no one really knew what was down there. The door only seemed to be open during fire drills. My friend Kyle and I, two high school freshmen with a penchant for getting into trouble, were determined to find out what was at the end of that hallway. We had 3 classes together out of 8, so our chances of being in the same class during a fire drill were decent. As luck would have it, a fire drill happened during our study hall. As the alarm rang, Kyle and I took off, running to a nearby bathroom that had a door stopper wedged in the door. We hid in a stall until all the commotion in the hall was gone. The coast was clear. We crept out of the bathroom and down the stairs to the mysterious hallway. It was lit by a single, dim bulb that cast long, unsettling shadows. The light was just bright enough to reveal a doorway that led to another half-flight of stairs, this time into complete darkness. We looked for a light switch but couldn't find one. We used the screens on our phones to light our way, which was enough to navigate the inky blackness. We found a door with a DONENTR sign on it. Of course, that was all the encouragement we needed. We struggled to open the door. It felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds and scraped along the floor as if it had fallen off its hinges. When we finally managed to get it open, we found a small, square room. It was about 100 square feet, empty except for a small vent in the far corner. The room wasn't silent, however. We could hear a faint, metallic clicking sound coming from the vent. Our curiosity, stronger than our fear, drew us closer. As we got nearer, we started to hear a low grunting and groaning, and then a shallow, wet breathing sound. It was coming from inside the vent. Kyle dared me to hover my phone screen over the vent to see what was inside. I really wanted to know. I got down on my knees, pressed the screen of my phone against the grate, and leaned my ear against the vent, listening intently. My heart jumped into my throat as something grabbed my ear. It was a hand. A cold, clammy hand that felt like it had been waiting for me. I screamed, scrambling back. Kyle, who was standing a few feet away, quickly pulled the hand off my ear. It was a human hand, long fingers, and a dirty palm, reaching through the vent. We ran. We ran out of that room, slamming the door shut, and sprinted up the stairs and back to the safety of the bathroom. The next day, we were still shaken. We went to talk to the janitor, Tom, a man who didn't seem to care about anything. We explained what happened and asked if there was someone working in the vents down there. He just stared at us, a blank expression on his face. "Nobody has been in that room for years," he said, "or there's no way for anyone to get to that vent down there." Kyle and I looked at each other, our hearts sinking. We had no explanation. The hand that had grabbed my ear, the sounds we had heard, it was all impossible. But it had happened.